Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode. In this episode, we're talking with Garm and Jasper. It's actually the first episode where we're talking with two people at the same time, and that's because they are the co-founders of Glo or Glo Dollar. They have their background in computer science, in tech startups, and now they're co-founding this non-profit which is trying to lift people out of extreme poverty by providing basic incomes. So I'm really excited about this episode. We met at a conference and I had no idea of what they were doing, but it sounded interesting. So I hope maybe you that are listening or watching this can also learn something new today. So enjoy the episode. This is the episode between me, Garm, and Jasper. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us this last minute.
So we talked a little bit at the conference, at the Effective Altruism conference here in Rotterdam. And I kind of understood a little bit about what you do, but could you tell me and tell us, what are you working on?
Right. So my name is Jasper. This is Garm. We work at a non-profit. The non-profit is called Glo, GLO. And we are building the Glo Dollar. And the Glo Dollar is an alternative version of, your normal everyday dollar, except that it has philanthropy baked into it, which means that if you use the Glo Dollar instead of the normal dollar for saving money or payments or sending money to friends, you are, as a side effect, lifting people out of extreme poverty. That's the short answer.
Damn, yes, exactly. And that's what I really liked about it, because the reason of why, your mission, that's something I can relate to. And I'm of course, we shouldn't have poverty. So if you have another solution to that, and I read your recommendations and it looked really good, right? So can you maybe touch a little bit on how do you do that?
Yeah. Good question. So maybe good to start with, we all know poverty, but extreme poverty is actually a specific definition. It's the worst kind of poverty, and it's defined as living on less than $2.15 a day. So it's a really shitty situation to be in. 670 million people live in that situation. And there's actually a pretty simple solution to make the lives of these people a little better, which is just giving them money for free as a basic income. That has been done, and that is currently going on. Various organizations do that, but one of the largest one is Give Directly. They've been doing it for 10 years, and they're also researching the effects of giving money. It tends to have a good impact. The problem is that the question is, of course, where does that money come from? Because if you can only give away money if you have money to give away. And right now, often it comes either from private donations. So, people like you and me who just give money away as a charitable donation, or it comes from government funds. The problem is, can we get enough money that way to provide for all of the 670 million people in extreme poverty? And we believe that that would be hard to get from donations only. So, okay, long story. Where does this Glo Dollar come in? Here's how it works. Let's say you agree with our mission to reduce and ultimately end extreme poverty, and you want to contribute. You can send us normal dollars, and we give you Glo dollars back. And we then keep the normal dollars, but we invest them in government bonds, which is a very low risk investment, gives a very low interest. But if we do it at scale, it's still a lot of money, and that's the money we're giving away. So that means that you haven't actually given any money away because you send us your normal dollars, but you got Glo dollars back. So at the end of the day, you still have the same amount of money. But on the back end, we are investing your regular dollars, making a little bit of money with that. And that's the money we're going to give away to people in extreme poverty. So for as long as you keep your Glo dollars, we are earning a little bit of interest. So on your behalf, we are generating money to give away. You can get your normal dollars back at any time. You just send us the Glo dollars. We send you back the regular dollars, and then it stops working. So then we don't have this investment anymore. We stop generating the interest, and that's when the basic income stops. But for the meantime, you have been contributing to someone's basic income without having donated money, without having given away money.
Exactly. Oh, nice. Okay, so it's basically like instead of having like the money on our savings account or something, then we could like save it with you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely one way to look at it. It's a savings account where the interest rate of the savings account doesn't go to you, but goes to someone in extreme poverty.
Exactly. How did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, that's a good question. We definitely didn't start with this idea.
Okay.
We started with a pretty crazy idea to start a new global currency. This is a bit technical, but
let's go.
Okay, so governments actually create new money every year. It's something that I didn't know until I started with this, but it happens always, not just when there's like a COVID kind of situation. And it happens at scale. So our estimate was that for the past 25 years, on average, and it really depends per country, governments around the world create 8% more money per year. And they just print that. And they do that because they want to keep up with economic growth and keep a little bit of inflation.
Okay, that's actually really interesting. Like, okay, is that like a global agreement? Like 8% each year, everybody does that? Or is it like somebody who's like, are we going to print more money?
Good question. No, it's definitely not a global agreement. No, it's sort of the result of economic growth. So let's say you have, let's say there's one country and at some point their economy is at this size, at a particular size, and then they have an amount of money that matches that economy. Then once the economy grows, there's actually too little money. And what then happens is deflation if you do nothing. Now, deflation means that stuff gets cheaper. And that sounds nice if stuff gets cheaper, but it has a lot of downsides. For instance, if stuff tends to get cheaper over time, then people are going to wait with buying things because maybe it gets even cheaper. Economy slows down. So most economists agree deflation is not what you want.
Okay.
So you have to print more money to keep up with the economic growth to sort of like restore the balance. And this is why you often hear that governments aim for 2% inflation.
Okay.
Which is because theoretically, you could just sort of like balance it out evenly and then you're at 0% deflation, 0% inflation. But governments think that it's good to sort of like be a little bit on the safe side and go for a little bit of inflation. So they just print more money to match the economic growth. So this 8% is not a. It also depends per country. So China has been printing much more money because their economy has been growing much more. Japan has been printing less money. It also depends over time, but on average, roughly 8% globally.
I think the 8% is really a Western country average. So we took that 8% to be on the safe side with Western countries.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas in less Western countries, the number is usually much higher rather than lower. And that's aside from faster economic growth, you can also use it to fix holes in your budget planning. Like if it turns out I, as a government, want to spend way more money than I actually have, print more money. And then that number goes up. So we really based that 8% on stable economies at the time. Yeah.
Okay, but maybe just one last question in this specific before we move on to your journey again. And like, because this is maybe like stupid question, but like, like if like it almost sounds like if a country just wants more money, it can just print more money. That sounds wrong. Like,
it is kind of true. Well, if it is a country that has its own currency.
Yeah.
But yeah, if a country has its own currency, then they can just print more money, and that has gone wrong in the past because if you print too much money, you get hyperinflation. So that happened in Venezuela, for instance.
Okay.
So you need to be very careful with that.
Okay.
And that is why in most countries the central banks are somewhat independent of the government, such that the government can't just say, okay, we're going to print more money. And the central bank will be a bit more conservative with that. But it definitely sometimes goes wrong.
Damn. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's a topic for another episode, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to be clear, like this is all
cool
stuff that's relevant to what we're not doing anymore.
Yeah.
So we wanted to create, so this 8%, you could, in theory, decide to give that money away to individual people. That would be a political choice you could make.
Okay.
Of course, no country is ever going to do that because that's just too wild of a deviation from the current system. But in theory, you could do that. So we thought, let's create a new currency, independent from all the existing currencies, that does the same thing. So 8% growth per year, but then we give it away to everyone as a basic income, as a universal basic income.
Yeah. Okay.
Problem with that is it's kind of difficult to convince everyone to just, switch over to a new non-existing currency. So we're not doing this idea anymore.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe nice to briefly touch upon what changed so that we could actually go to our current concept.
Exactly.
Which is inflation started to come up again. And that meant that governments are going to increase the interest rate that they charge, which means that actually government bonds start paying out a profit again. And currently it's at 4%, I think, which is way higher than it was in the years before when it was around 0%. But on average, I think historically it's something like 3.5%. And when we sort of learned about that, then we realized, oh, wait, now it's possible to actually create a much simpler Glo Dollar where every dollar you put in, we can promise you can get a dollar back again. And we can actually make a profit with these very safe investments. And sort of a second effect that we haven't touched upon yet, but which I think is very important, is that it unlocks a much larger potential stream of revenue for philanthropy in general. And I'm going to give the mic to Jasper again, who can explain that way better than I can.
Okay, let's go. But thank you.
Yeah, so the idea there is that right now, most philanthropy is donation-based. In fact, I think for most people, if you talk with them about being charitable, it's synonymous with donating money, giving money away. And obviously that's a great thing, right? Philanthropy is doing amazing things and people should definitely continue giving what they can. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there is just much more money that people want to keep than they're willing or even able to give away. Like even the most charitable people they keep most of their money for themselves, right? In effective altruism, it's a common thing to pledge to give 10% of your income away, and that is for most people regard that as a very radical thing to do.
Yeah,
which means that even the very radical charitable givers keep 90% of the money for themselves, which makes sense. Like you need to live, right? You need to pay rent. But that does mean that philanthropy that is purely based on donations can only ever grow so big. I think in the Netherlands, where we're recording this, the average person gives away 0.5% of their income. So if you imagine like a pie chart of someone's salary, then and where that goes to, like the tiniest slice of 0.5%, that is charitable giving. So that is the limit of the amount of money that donation-based philanthropy can get. And extreme poverty is a problem with a clear solution, but the clear solution just needs so much money that if that were to come only from charitable giving, from donations, it's going to be very hard to get to that number. And you would be competing with all of the other donation-based philanthropic cause areas, which is probably also not good. So that's really the idea. Like, let's break free from this donation-based philanthropy, because that allows us potentially to get to a much higher number of money available for reducing extreme poverty.
Interesting. Okay. Do you get some like almost like frequently asked questions like around what you're doing? Like, is there anything else which can maybe clarify more about, or like to understand deeper what you're doing? Okay, so basically, what are your plans ahead with this? Like, how is it going now, and like what are like your next steps and so on?
Yeah. So we are still pre-launch. So we're working on the last legal steps and the last technological steps to actually launch this currency, the Glo Dollar. And we hope that it will be live in January. And from that moment on, it's a new currency, right? So there isn't much you can do with it yet. Like the grocery store will not recognize the Glo Dollar. So you can't buy your groceries with it. But there's one thing you can already do with it, and that is if you have some savings just sitting on your bank account that you're doing nothing with, maybe for the day your dishwasher breaks or something, that you can convert to Glo Dollars, because then it's still doing nothing, but it's helping people. And once your dishwasher actually breaks, you can just get your regular dollars back, and then you buy the dishwasher. So in January, we want to create a movement, and we're already starting to grow that movement a little bit, of people who are like, yeah, I want to contribute to this cause. I want to sort of like set this movement in motion that can hopefully grow large enough to actually end extreme poverty. So I'm going to support this, and I'm going to convert some of my savings to the Glo Dollar, tell my friends about it, tell my sports team about it, and start actually lifting people out of extreme poverty.
Exactly, yeah.
That's step one. And then hopefully when that movement, starts to become big enough and get traction, then we might start seeing consumer brands that want to sort of like jump on the bandwagon. We often use Starbucks as an example. They might say, hey, I see that there's a really cool movement going on here. We want to support this cause. Maybe it looks good for our brand. So as of today, you can now pay us with Glo Dollars. And that's interesting, because then if you're part of our movement, you can not only convert your unused money to Glo, like your dishwasher break savings, but slowly but surely, once you can do real life things, real life purchases with Glo, like buy coffee, pay your Spotify subscription, pay your rent, maybe even, you can actually convert more and more and more of the money you're using every month into Glo Dollars, and that just means that you're helping us generate even more money for people in extreme poverty. So it's really about how many dollars in the world can we replace with the Glo Dollar.
Exactly.
And of course, at some point, we also want to replace euros. So we're going to make the Glo Euro and the Glo Swedish Kronen and
the Norwegian one.
And the Norwegian one, of course.
Yeah. Good.
We'll do the Norwegian one first.
Thanks. Yeah, awesome. But okay, so yeah, so if Starbucks says yes, or like if they're like, oh, this is amazing, then like how did that work? Because then I have my Glo Dollar or Norwegian kroner, and then they have it. But then as long as it's in the loop, right? Like that's the thing. As long as the money is in the Glo Dollar, then it doesn't matter if like it's Starbucks who have it right now or if it's me. Basically, yeah, we're also not sponsored by Starbucks. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're listening, my DMs are open.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We might be in the future. Okay.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing. So how I often describe it is, let's say that every dollar bill in your wallet has like a toggle button that you can switch on and off. And if you switch it on, then your dollar bill starts to generate money for people in extreme poverty. So if you give Starbucks that dollar bill, it continues to generate money for extreme poverty until they switch it off. Now, in all honesty, their accountants are on day one probably going to be, hey, what's this weird dollar that the marketing team said we're accepting? I don't want this in my books. I'm a good accountant. I don't do weird things with the money of the company. So I'm going to switch this button off, which means they're going to send us the Glo dollars and ask for normal dollars, which, by the way, are the dollars that you once gave us to buy your Glo dollars. And this is all the reason why Starbucks would even accept the Glo Dollar, because they know that at any point in time, they can actually just get normal dollars back. So it's worth the same amount of money. But once they do that to get like a normal, clean book, the dollar bill stops having that social impact.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because we've replaced a real dollar and now that is reversed.
Yeah.
So that's actually bad for us. So we actually want Starbucks to convince their accountants to keep the Glo dollars as Glo dollars on their books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do we do that?
So how do we do that? Because, if Starbucks is being selfish, they have no reason to do this, right? It's just more work for their accountants. So can we give them a reason to do it? Well, we can, because Starbucks cares about their brand. So let's say, so one interesting figure to know is that every $15,000 at current interest rates that is converted to Glo dollars, that is enough money to lift one person out of poverty.
One more time. How much?
15,000.
Yeah, 15,000. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So let's say a lot of people start buying coffee with their Glo dollars. And at some point, Starbucks has 150,000 Glo dollars. Then if they don't convert it back to dollars, they can actually say, hey, we are a good company because we are currently supporting the basic income of 10 people in extreme poverty.
Yes.
So that's good for their and the nice thing is, again, this is donation-less. So they are having a social impact and it doesn't cost them any money to do that. And we can help that by, maybe have sort of like a top 10 on our website with, hey, these are the companies that we really like because they are holding the most Glo dollars.
Starbucks.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does this actually work? Like for me or like for people, like how do we buy the Glo Dollar and so on?
Yeah, good question. So I just described it as you send us dollars and you get Glo dollars back, right? It's not as oversimplified as that, because the question, of course, is how do you actually start a new currency? Well, there's sort of like two ways to do that. One is you convince the government to do it, which would require going into politics, which might be a bit difficult. And two is you start as a cryptocurrency. And that's what we're doing. So the Glo Dollar will be a cryptocurrency. which is funny because a lot of crypto projects, they're very proud of the fact that they're a crypto project, but in our case, it just like there's not really another way to do it. So that's why we're using crypto, and that means that when we go live, you buy Glo like you buy any other cryptocurrency, which means that you go to a crypto exchange. These are the companies that you buy your Bitcoin at. So you probably know some of the names like Kraken, FTX, and Coinbase. We are now working on getting Glo supported on one of these exchanges, listed. Yeah. And then, you create an account there, or you maybe already have one. You transfer some dollars to your account, and then you buy Glo. And whenever you want to get your normal dollars back, that also happens on the exchange. So we ourselves, as a nonprofit, we will not sell to individuals directly. We sell the Glo in like wholesale, so like large amounts to the exchanges, and they actually provide the service that people can buy it. Yeah.
Maybe a nice addition to that is, aside from it being very hard to talk to governments, we could still do that, but then you can only talk to one government at a time with a team of 2 people working on it, or we're with 10 people now. Still very hard to get all governments across the world on your team, if not impossible. Whereas with a cryptocurrency, we can create it within one country, and then we can sell it to all of these exchanges that are active across the entire planet. And then they already have figured out all the licenses and regulatory challenges for it to be able to be sold to individuals all across the world. So, for instance, right now we're starting in the United States, where the regulatory framework around cryptocurrencies that are always worth $1 exactly is relatively clear. And then we can sell it to a local exchange in, for instance, Norway, and they can sell it to people in Norway without us even really needing to think about that. And that makes our life a lot easier versus the alternative routes.
Okay. You mentioned you went from 2 to 10 people. How has it been, like the entrepreneurial journey for you and like the growing of the team and so on?
I think very exciting. Quite fast actually, depending a bit on what you're used to. So we have been working on this for almost a year now. We started with 3 people. And we quite quickly hired a team of software developers. As you scale, you need other things. So we now have someone working on research and writing, someone working on people and recruitment, and someone working on partnerships. And it's been really fun. We're a global and remote team, so everyone works from home or from an office. But we have, we're in the Netherlands. We have people in the US and in Hong Kong and in India and Poland. But we also value having like a social bond. So we meet up every 3 to 4 months somewhere around the world to, also spend some real time together, which we've been doing 2 times now, and it's been really, really nice.
Wow. And can I ask, like, how have you gotten the support so far to do this? To be able to hire,
Yeah, good question. Because that's, of course, always an important thing for a nonprofit. Where do you get your funding from? And we were actually lucky enough to start with a donor, because it was actually his idea initially.
Cool.
So the donor is Sid Siebrandi, or specifically his foundation, the Siebrandi Foundation. He is the co-founder and CEO of GitLab, a software development company based in Silicon Valley, or actually also global and full remote. And this was one of his ideas. So he actually found us as a team, and he was ready to fund the initial start of this organization.
Why you? Like
why us?
Why? Yeah.
Yeah, good question. So we started with 3 people. So the third person is Jeff. He is not here. He's in the US.
Okay.
And I think, what do you need in a team to get something like this work? Well, you need someone who knows a lot about economics. That's Jeff. He has a background in academia. You need someone who knows a lot about technology. That's Garm. He's a CTO. And he's been CTO for finance companies before, so relevant. And you need someone to bring this out to the world and explain it and do the marketing and the movement building. And that's what I do.
Oh yeah.
We've actually been working before. So we've been working before on a financial technology startup.
Nice.
And we did a crypto project together.
Wow. Yeah.
So weirdly, our profiles that are kind of all over the place, or at least I would see my profile as that, was sort of like a suspiciously good fit for this project, which brings together movement building, finance, and technology. And I think the great thing about it is that it's also something that is like, in terms of work, matches what we do, but it's also ideologically something that's very close to our hearts.
Exactly.
Which is not necessarily always the case if you work in fintech. It's often about making rich people even richer.
Wow. Okay, beautiful. I like that. Yeah. Okay, so then we were just chatting about it like in a little in the break about how awesome it would be if we were to meet again in like 5-10 years or something, like in the future. We're sitting down here, it's the second time we do the podcast together maybe, and everything went amazing. Like can you kind of like paint us that picture, like what does it take for this to go amazing, and how does it look like for you then? And for Powerty?
Great question. Maybe I'll start with the 2 numbers that are the smallest number here that matters and the largest number here that matters. So the smallest number, to get a sense of scale, is what we just discussed before, is that our project is replacing normal money with Glo money, because then the money starts lifting people out of extreme poverty. And right now, every $15,000 that goes into the Glo system amounts to approximately 1 person being lifted out of extreme poverty. If we want to generate enough money to support everyone in extreme poverty with a basic income, and this is a bit of an oversimplification, that's very hard to estimate, of course, because there are a lot of variables, but we estimate that we would need to replace 7% of all the money in the world with Glo money. Then we can approximately lift all the 670 million people out of extreme poverty, with a lot of asterisks there. It's not as simple as that, of course. 7% of the money in the world sounds very ambitious, and it is. But I don't think it's impossible. So I always like to point to another quite successful movement as an example that you can get to that kind of scale, which is vegetarianism. Maybe a bit of a weird one to compare with Glo, but in an abstract sense, someone who is a vegetarian is someone who made a life choice that they themselves are not really benefiting from. In fact, they're sort of like sacrificing a little bit of freedom, but they do it because they know that they're contributing to the greater good. And this depends per country, but in a lot of countries, about 5% of the population decided to become a vegetarian. So that actually means that a lot of people are willing to make a life choice like that. Well, if 5% of if all the vegetarians would convert their money to Glo, then we're at 5%. Again, a bit of oversimplified.
We got many vegetarians and vegans listening to this, I guess. So, like, there you go. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, not everyone.
So that's the smallest and largest number. I'll give some numbers in between as a sense of scale.
Yeah.
So, let's say you are a software developer in Silicon Valley. It's not uncommon to make $150,000 per year if you're in that career. Let's say you want to contribute to this cause and you go to your employer and you say, hey, boss, I would like to get my salary in Glo dollars from now on. Then if you also spend all that money in Glo, that's $150,000 of Glo. That's 10 times 15,000. So if one person makes that decision, they're lifting 10 people out of extreme poverty. And they haven't donated anything in this scenario.
And is that, or like my mind went like every year, or is that just a one time, like as long as it's that much amount of money, then 10 people? Or
yeah, exactly. So as long as that $150,000 are in the form of Glo, the 10 people continue to get a basic income. So if that person does that for 10 years, then it's for 10 years a supported basic income.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, good question. So that's a nice scale. Similarly, a lot of people who are well off, they have, well, let's say maybe like $1,000 sitting in a bank account for the day that their dishwasher breaks. If that's converted to Glo and 14 other people do that, 1% out of poverty. If 5% of all savings in just the United States would be Glo, that would equate to 32 million people out of extreme poverty. And Apple, the company, holds 203 billion of cash and cash equivalents. And if they would convert that all to Glo, Apple alone would lift 12 million people out of extreme poverty. It's also a very cool thing to do as a company. To just say, okay, I want to contribute to this. So those are some interesting numbers to get a sense of scale.
What are some like pros and cons for, let's say, Apple, for example, to have the cash with you or where they have it now? Yeah.
So as you might have noticed, when I said Apple is holding 203 billion, I said they're holding it in cash and cash equivalents.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of the trick. So they're like, most companies don't hold their cash as cash. They actually invest it in government bonds, like we're doing. And that's called cash equivalents. So if you have $1,000 sitting in a bank account doing nothing, then it's really a free lunch if you convert it to Glo. For Apple, it's not that easy. Like they actually would not receive that little bit of interest anymore. So if Apple would do this, they would actually sort of like donate their interest on that $203 billion of cash.
Got it. Yeah.
And I think at that scale, it's no longer a little bit of interest, right? 4% on 200 billion is still billions of dollars that Apple would be giving up, essentially. But in exchange, they get something that they can talk about, which is great for their image. They're now lifting people out of extreme poverty, foregoing a little bit of profit, but also not necessarily profit that they themselves need. So do I think that Apple is going to convert their 200 billion to Glo tomorrow? Probably not, but they can make a start by, let's say, converting a certain percentage or a certain percentage of every additional dollar that they add to their cash holdings over time.
Interesting. And then for like what would be most effective of them? Like if they could use those profits, like those 4% profits, directly to help people in poverty, like that would basically be like give directly or something, which is also anyways what you are doing, right? Or like would it be more effective for them to just give them directly, like to donate them, or would it be more effective to have them in Glo Dollar in that way, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So maybe good for listeners to know is that how do we actually, like how does Glo, the nonprofit, actually get the money to people in extreme poverty? Interestingly, by donating it to give directly. So it's a good question, because what if Apple just donates that 4% to give directly themselves? It would actually not be a very different thing. I think a reason to do it through Glo is, it's easy. Like we already have the infrastructure, so we sort of like provide the service to them. Like otherwise they have to do a new thing, and now they can just use our service. That's one way. And the other one is, we're going to make this into a thing, a thing other companies do. We're going to probably have that wall of fame of like the most famous companies that are holding Glo. So if they do it as part of the Glo movement, if we do our job well, it's going to give them more marketing and brand benefit than if they do it as a solo thing.
Okay,
Yeah, maybe that's actually a nice segue into what we actually need to build in order to make this all possible. So in 5 to 10 years from now, if we really want the world to have changed a lot of their money to Glo, there's a lot of things we actually need to do, right?
Yeah.
And one is the sort of wall of fame of all the organizations and perhaps even individuals that are holding their money in Glo. And a nice side effect of it being a cryptocurrency is that would be completely public as well and completely transparent. So anyone can just sort of join the Glo movement, and then automatically they are also able to share that with the world. I think that is a large part of things that we'll be building and spreading that message to people around the world. That's going to be super important, I think, in phase 1. But we also really want Glo to be used for paying for actual goods and services, like being able to go to a Starbucks and to tap your phone or perhaps even a card to pay for your Starbucks. But that's not going to work on day one once we've actually launched the cryptocurrency, because that infrastructure isn't out there yet. So we'll need to make it create technologies that allow you to pay for your coffee in a Starbucks in the US, but also in Norway, which might come with a different set of challenges. That's not necessarily something that we will all do ourselves. I always like to think of Glo as a movement that also has support from other volunteers, but also businesses that build on top of the Glo Dollar. So maybe we as the nonprofit will create an example way to actually pay using the Glo Dollar in a shop in maybe the United States or maybe here in the Netherlands or wherever we see adoption first. But then we'd also like to sort of inspire other people to start businesses that do the same in their own country. So if we can show, hey, it actually works to start a payments processing company built on top of Glo in this country, it might also work in Norway, please start one. In fact, it would be my dream to even provide grants or funding for small teams that are super excited about this, would like to start a business on top of Glo.
Exactly.
And I think ultimately we become more of an orchestrating entity that's really trying to create an ecosystem of Glo-minded organizations that join the Glo movement, rather than one very large nonprofit that tries to do everything themselves, because that's going to be very inefficient and very costly. And we only exist because of donations of individuals or governments. We never take any dollar out of the interest that we make from the Glo dollars. That 100% goes to give directly.
Important.
No money in, or no hands in the cookie jar. So we need to raise funds elsewhere, and we need to spend those funds in an efficient way.
Amazing. And I can also touch on, like, I asked you about, like, what if they just can give it directly to give directly? Like, if Starbucks would do that. It also just reminds me that, like I feel like in this time we are now, like, we really need some, like, new, like, maybe radical, but just at least new ideas. Because, like, the status is that Starbucks doesn't give or Apple doesn't give the money directly to give directly right now. So maybe there's some other way. Maybe this is the way, right? Like, maybe you are actually working with one of those ideas, which can actually bring a huge change in this world. So I appreciate that a lot and hope it will work, of course. Yeah,
thanks so much. It's really, like, once we're alive, it's really all about getting enough people to just decide to do this. Like, that's the cool thing. Like, we're so, like, taking away the last reason why you wouldn't contribute to a solution to extreme poverty, which is you need to donate money, and not everyone wants to donate money or can donate money. So we're taking that excuse away. Now it's just changing the money that you're already using into Glo dollars.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening, that is like, hey, this is an exciting project. Really, all that we need is the first movers to get the ball rolling. So if you're excited about this, please check out what we're doing and consider joining. And maybe it starts a chain reaction of other people doing it too, and then we can actually make a dent in extreme poverty in the world.
Yeah, I still have some questions.
Okay. Nice.
Okay, so because we mentioned crypto and so on, and just one thought that I have, because like, personally, I haven't been in that space so much, so I don't know that much. I don't have an account anywhere. And I guess a lot of people, or some people listening, will be in the same situation. And one of the first thought is, like, also just like maybe a stupid question, but like, is it safe? Like, how do I know it's safe? How do I know if I send you my money that I will get it back and so on? So just like, if you could just briefly inform me about those things.
Yeah. So good question. So maybe for starters, most of the things that people worried about with crypto, they don't even apply here. So that's maybe good to start with. So what do people hate about crypto? If they hate crypto, one is it's volatile, right? So the value goes up and down. You never know with how much money you're waking up. Well, that's not the case with Glo, because Glo dollars are just worth dollars. They don't go up or down. Two is some people are afraid of scams. We're not a scam. This is
good to know.
a real nonprofit, and we're incorporated right now as a public benefit corporation in the US. We're going for 501c3 status, which means you're a officially recognized nonprofit by the US tax agency. You can look all this stuff up.
Yeah, I will not launch this episode if I found out you were not.
Yeah. And the third thing is, get rich quick schemes. And there's also good to know there's no hidden way here for us to make money. Everyone working for Glo receives a salary. The people that hold Glo are not profiting. It's, again, just worth $1. And the people that are funding Glo are just really donating money. So also they are not getting any equity or shares or tokens. So that's good to know. So most things that people don't like about crypto are out of the way. We are really just using crypto as a infrastructure layer to get a currency. launched. Having said that, there are two things still that could possibly go wrong. One is we mess up at the blockchain level. So our smart contracts contain a bug, we get hacked, things like that. So for that, we make sure that all of our on-chain code is audited by a third-party security firm. We just got our first audit report back, and that looked good, so that's nice. And we'll continue doing that. And then the other thing is that, and this gets a bit technical maybe, but we have a governance council consisting of multiple people all across the world. And anytime we actually do a blockchain transaction, like creating new Glo or giving someone administrative rights, it's never the case that one person can just do that. It always needs a majority signing off of multiple people in this governance council. So yeah, we have a security policy basically that goes about who has the rights to do what and making sure that it's never just one person's power, basically. Again, if you're interested in this stuff, you can all look it up in our white paper. So that's how we secure the blockchain side of things and making sure that that all goes right. The other thing that could go wrong is, of course, we're also just holding money in like non-crypto money and non-crypto government bonds in, you know, banks accounts and a company. So theoretically, we could take the money and run. So how do we prevent that? Well, in multiple ways. One is, you know, we're incorporated as a US organization, so we are just part of the United States legal system like any other company. Two is we are going to set up a board that oversees things like this. And three is our non-crypto financials are going to be attested by a third-party accountancy firm. And in the not too far future, we actually want them to audit it. Technical difference. An audit is a bit more strict than an attestation. But yeah, so I think the long story short is like we're making sure on all of these fronts that there are checks and balances and there are independent people making sure that everything is going in the right way.
For people who want to learn more about the topics we have been talking through today, to go more into detail, so do you have any recommendations maybe?
Yeah, do you mean the general topics or like our website, our white paper?
Both, yeah. Yeah,
I think I'd say I'd start with the website that contains some more light reading. But if you find you're super interested, then we have a white paper publicly available for anyone to see. You can find that on the website as well. And yeah, that really contains completely in-depth how all of this is working.
Yeah, what is a white paper? I never heard of the phrase before, actually.
Oh, good point. Yeah. So a white paper is a common thing in the crypto world. It's a document, like a piece of text, an article, often pretty long, that kind of reads like an academic paper a little bit, and it just describes the whole project. Why are we doing this? What is it? How are we doing it? Where are we going? How do we make sure it all works?
Okay, nice. Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
And maybe nice to add is sort of in line with our value of being super transparent and collaborative with people out there, is that the white paper is sort of in an eternal draft status. It's completely public that we're working on it and who is working on it. That also means that anyone reading it who sees something that they'd like to edit or contribute, they can just start writing in the document, and it will be automatically sort of added as a suggestion to the document. And then we go through it and accept or sometimes reject suggestions.
Interesting.
But yeah, we're like all about doing things out in the open. So that includes working on the white paper.
Yeah. Wow, that is interesting. There's like an external Google Doc where you can add suggestions to how you run your stuff, actually.
It's literally a Google Doc, yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, nice. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thanks everybody, and thanks again Garm and Jasper for taking the time to talk with me. Really appreciate it, and wishing you all the best of luck with your project. And yeah, to everybody who's watching and listening, if you have any feedback or suggestions of any people I should talk to or anything, please let me know. And yeah, wishing you an amazing day ahead, or night, or morning, or yeah, whatever. Bye bye.